Hey folks, Jojo from Jerz here. Welcome back to Sane, where we try to find a little clarity and maybe even a little hope amidst the many, many layers of madness. I'm so excited about today's episode because we have the amazing Allison Gill joining us. Yes, the Allison Gill, host of the Daily Beans podcast and one of the sharpest, most fearless voices out there when it comes to holding power to account and making sense of the chaos. Allison is going to talk in particular about the Trump administration's impact on both our active duty military and the veteran community. But before we jump in, just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, please rate and review the podcast and share it with your friends. And if you want even more sane-ish in your life, follow me on YouTube and Substack for bonus content, updates, and all my latest rants. All right, let's get into it. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Allison Gill. You probably know her as the host of the Daily Beans podcast, or maybe you follow her sharp, fearless commentary online. Here's why I wanted Allison on the show right now. She's not just a podcaster or commentator. She's a truth teller and a community builder. At a time when chaos rules, disinformation is everywhere, and cynicism feels like the easy way out, Allison cuts through the noise with facts, wit, and a relentless focus on accountability. Allison has this superpower ability to take the most complicated, infuriating news and make it not just understandable, but actionable. Democracy isn't a spectator sport. Allison helps us see what we can actually do to push back and fight against the nonsense we're seeing from this administration. So settle in. Here's my conversation with the one and only Allison Gill. Allison, welcome to my all-new podcast, which is called Sane-ish, which we can talk about. But first of all, I just want to say welcome. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. And congratulations on the new show. I love the name, Sane-ish.
Yeah.
I think that's, I'm working on a new show myself called The Breakdown. So
I'm so it's quite the 1-2 punch. Yeah, definitely a reflection on the times that we are in and how, God, nonstop and flood the zone with shit and intentionally by design, difficult to manage, keep up with, respond to. I definitely want to talk about as much of it as we possibly can. But the first thing whenever I talk to you, it's always top of mind because I know that this is clearly near and dear and personal to you. You have served in our military, and every member of my family, for the most part, has been in some branch of the armed services. My dad was a reservist, but he worked for the DOD for 50 years. And these issues, of all the issues that I get upset about, what's happening right now to both our veterans community and our active military and reserve military, and the men and women of our armed forces, is an abomination. And whenever I talk to you, that's the kind of stuff that I want to at least initially talk about that. So, what are your thoughts about everything and what's going on and what that fucking draft dodger in chief is doing?
Well, to see what's happening, let's start with what's happening to my Navy. I very brief career back in the 90s. And by the way, when we say my Navy, we know it's not like my Navy. We just that's how sailors talk.
It's not your Miami either. It's Miami. It's a place.
On the first days of Pride Month, to change the name of the Harvey Milk, for example, and doing it, at least according to what the Times reported, intentionally during Pride Month. That kind of cruelty and horrible behavior is disgusting. Mm-hmm. Firing all the women, to I don't know, replace them with people more like Pete Hegseth. It's damaging. It's got to be hurting morale. But then to see what they're doing to the VA and what they want to do to the VA, it's no real surprise. When I got to interview on C-SPAN Book TV, I got to interview Miles Taylor about his book Blowback. And he talked about what Donald Trump wanted to do to the Veterans Affairs in the first administration. And we remember, first of all, he had his 3 private doctor friends kind of shadow running the VA out of Mar-a-Lago. And aside from that, he wanted to privatize the whole thing. And then he also wanted to just get rid of all of veterans' benefits altogether so that he could give him and his buddies more tax breaks. And they, the adults in the room back in the first Trump administration, when we had adults in the room, talked him out of it. Said, you'll never get reelected if you gut the VA and take away veterans' benefits. And they were able to talk him out of it. But as a lame duck president, or somebody who doesn't have to run again, whether he tries to hold on to the White House illegally or loses the election, whichever it is, he doesn't have to run again. He doesn't care. And so now he's out, help with Russ Vought and the architects of Project 2025 to completely dismantle the Department of Veterans Affairs, wholly privatize it. And he's, starting with what they want to fire 83,000 people from the Department of Veterans Affairs. And I spoke yesterday at the Florida Dems web series about veterans and our promise to our veterans. And I was like, never in my whole tenure at the VA or any job I've ever had were we overstaffed. Like, no one's ever said, boy, we have just too many people helping out around here. We really need to cut back on this. And I hearkened back to the waitlist scandal under the Obama administration. In 2013, there were veterans who were dying on waitlists to get VA healthcare. And that was because we were short-staffed. And they want to gut the VA and fire all these people. And then think about the ripple effects too. 30% of those that work there are veterans. 30% of the people that they want to fire from across agencies are veterans. We have veterans and active duty service members on SNAP. And they want to gut that in this Billionaire Bailout Bill through taking literal food out of the mouths of our active duty service members' kids so that they can have tax breaks. And so they gutted the suicide hotline. They're gutting mental telehealth. Veterans will die. And I think that the answer is obvious. We have to put Democrats back into power. We have to flip the House in 2026, and we have to take the White House back in 2028. Those are the only answers. And while, yes, we've had problems with VA under Democrats, it's quite considerably different. Democrats want the VA to exist. And we can push Democrats to do better. You can't push a Republican to do anything.
Which, on this particular issue, is especially maddening to me, because they will continue to tell you and take up the mantle and co-opt the idea, Republicans, that they support our troops, right? Like that they're the ones that stand with the flag, that stand with the troops. They're the ones who, every Veterans Day, they'll tweet the same bullshit and the flags, and then they'll simultaneously tell you that the Democrats are the ones who hate our troops and we hate America and we hate the flag and all of that other shit. And it drives me nuts, because a lot of these Republicans actually do betray their own beliefs in, making sure that we do justice by those who serve, and especially by those who have served and sacrificed all, and their families are left, with the pieces. But what I struggle with most of all, and it infuriates me, is why this message isn't getting out further, and why there are still so many in the military community who aren't seeing this for exactly what it is, because it's so obvious. And it's so clear that he not only doesn't give a shit, but he holds them in disdain and contempt. Like, it's a deep-rooted resentment that he has. I mean, we've seen it with everything from Suckers and Losers to John McCain to attacking Gold Star family to just desecrating Arlington to that fucking spectacle at West Point. Why don't they see this? And why isn't this a bigger deal when I feel like it should be on the news 24/7?
Because all the televisions on military bases and at the Department of Veterans Affairs are tuned to Fox News. That's why they don't hear about this. They don't, and when they're told that all the problems that they face are because of Democrats, they believe it. So if it weren't for having to compromise with Republicans, members of the military and veterans would be getting twice as much in compensation and pension and pay. We would have a very full, robust Department of Veterans Affairs with no wait times. It would be fully funded. We would have a public option for everybody else in this country if we didn't have to compromise with Republicans. We would have the ERA.
Right.
Everything that takes a long time and is slow, and everything that people blame Democrats for not getting done, is because we have to compromise with Republicans. Republicans are the problem. They always have been. Trying to get benefits for veterans is always Democrats. And we put out these big, beautiful bills, like actual big, beautiful bills to give veterans more benefits and more access to care. And the Republicans come in and say, no, 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 no. And it gets a little weeded down, and then it passes, and it's not nearly enough because of Republicans. I know why people don't know this. It's because the corporate media doesn't want people to know.
Right.
So.
And yet, the starkest example of the intersection of all of this and the hypocrisy and the outrage that should be on the table is this, I call it the Small in the Pants parade on June 14th on Donald Trump's birthday, under the guise of celebrating the birthday of our army, which it is the birthday of our army. But you and I and most people who are watching or listening to this know Donald Trump doesn't give a flying fuck about the birthday of our army. It is about his birthday, and it is about him going to France and seeing Macron's parade and seeing the shit that Kim Jong-un does and wanting the same thing for himself. To parade all that is under him that he really doesn't care about, and is, as we've just discussed, firing more veterans than any other president in American history, while gutting and decimating the VA, which is something he's long wanted to do, but using our troops as props to the detriment of the infrastructure of the city of Washington, D.C. But it's so blazingly obvious to me, that intersection of this bullshit, that he's giving himself $100 million with all the damages and all the everything else parade held up on a bullshit premise that is, if you really wanted to honor the men and women of our army, you would stop gutting the VA and stop firing them, stop coming for their Medicaid and their SNAP or whatever else social programs they need. But no, they don't want a fucking parade. He wants a parade.
Take that $100 million and pay the army, people in the army, more money.
Right.
Stop firing all the civilian employees and federal civil servants at the DoD that support the army.
Right.
Now they're gonna have somebody parachute out of the sky and onto a platform and hand him a gift or something.
Oh, Jesus God.
I can't.
I mean, it's just a circus. It's a circus, and the thing is, he sees them as props and pawns. That was the West Point spectacle. That was Memorial Day, Arlington. Mm-hmm. I mean, he sees them as props and spectacles, and it's. I could talk about this all day long. But let's. Part of it is also, that people will say, oh, well, in this big billionaire boner bill, they're adding more to the Department of Defense. They're cutting other things. They're cutting other programs that will have an impact on the men and women who serve, by the way, and the men and women who have served. But let's sort of talk about what they're trying to shove down the American people's throats right now. It passed in the House. Now some of those Republicans are like, well, wait a minute, I didn't know it said.
Well, now that Elon doesn't like it,
that part,
they don't want to like it too, but they already voted for it. So they have to figure out they just have to come out and say, well, I didn't read it.
Right. That's your job.
It's just BS. They just want to be on Elon's side in the great Republican war to come.
Yes. Yeah. So let's talk about some of the awfulness in that bill. And then I want to get your take on why you think Elon suddenly seemingly jumped ship and went rogue on this thing, because my friend texted me this morning and I have my own theories, but I'd be very curious to see what you think.
I have a theory.
Okay, I want to hear that. And I want to hear, what your assessment is of this fucking bill as it stands and what's going to actually come out of the Senate and go back to the House.
Well, here's what's amazing to me is that they're going to gut almost $1 trillion in Medicaid, $500 billion in Medicare. They're going to gut $300 billion in SNAP. And with all of these, they're cutting hundreds of billions in climate programs that Biden put together in a bipartisan fashion with Congress in the Inflation Reduction Act. And after gutting all of that, they still will end up with a $4 trillion deficit. That's how many tax cuts they're giving themselves. The cost to line the pockets of billionaires is so high that we will still have a $4 trillion deficit after 10 years with all of these cuts to our earned benefit. That's how much money they're stealing. It is the largest transfer of wealth in the history of the world, from the 99% to the 1%, especially to the 0.01%. So that, I mean, there's so many terrible things in this bill. There's a contempt provision that the courts are already responding to. There was one judge who wants to get on to contempt proceedings and has asked for a $1,000 security deposit from the plaintiffs because of this provision in the Billionaire Bailout Bill. Judges used to have the discretion to charge $0 as a security deposit in case the thing goes sideways and the government wins. And because we're kind of reimbursing the taxpayers for using the Department of Justice lawyers. Mm-hmm. And so now this judge is like, well, I got to do something here to uphold any future contempt finding that I have. So we got to get a $1,000 security deposit from the plaintiffs. Mm. So we're already seeing the impact of it's not even passed into law.
Right.
But now we've got groups of Republicans in the Senate. First, we've got the deficit hawks. And then we've got what they're calling themselves the Medicaid moderates.
Oh, God.
Which is just, okay. But you have people like Josh Hawley and, who are realizing the reckoning is happening where they have to decide if they're going to support Trump or their constituents, because Hawley's 40% of his people rely on Medicaid. And if he signed a bill that got Medicaid, he is out. OWT, bell bottom, yesterday's news. Like, well, maybe bell bottoms are still in.
Faster than you can run out of the Capitol building after fist pumping the insurrection.
But heels didn't even touch the ground, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got these Medicaid moderates, you've got these deficit hawks who like Ron Johnson, who think we aren't kicking enough people off Medicaid. And so they're clashing. And then all of a sudden, Elon Musk comes out and does 13 separate tweets trashing the Billionaire Bailout Bill, which he stands to make a ton of money from, by the way, which is also interesting. Steve Bannon is like, this bill is terrible. We're going to be paying this debt. Like, I'm actually kind of impressed because I thought, if you're a Republican, don't ever talk to me about deficits again.
Thank you.
But there are some Republicans who are sticking to their deficit guns, which I think deficits are made up bullshit to try to win elections. But regardless, I'm surprised to see a little consistency in any Republican.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like grabbing the popcorn. I can't wait to see what happens, because they are now going to be factions. There's going to be the Musk faction, and there's going to be the, I guess the MAGA faction.
Right.
It's going to be interesting what side Trump comes down on.
Because he doesn't know one way or the other half the time anyway.
He doesn't know what he's doing. So.
No. Right. Yeah, it's the Mike Johnsons versus the Elon Musks, and you got Marge in the middle trying to fucking navigate this thing, and she's about as articulate as a feral fucking hog.
There's an AI provision in here I didn't know about, and that's why not her 50% of constituents that are going to be kicked off Medicaid. She doesn't give a shit about that.
Yo, AI. Because the people in my district in Georgia, they're wondering about this A1, and they're real worried about this A1 steak sauce. I didn't know A1 steak sauce was on the table. It's a very expensive bill. No, you went along with it.
Right here. Get you right here.
Gets it here. Gets it right here.
Get you right here.
Yeah, and all of a sudden Marge cares. No, she's hedging her bets now, and they don't know which fucking way to go because these weather costs.
Well, I didn't know it gutted Medicaid, because then she just looks stupid. So she has to pick some weird provision that is buried somewhere so she can actually get away with the fact that she didn't read a bill she voted for.
Yeah. So what is your theory on why Musk went apeshit on all this? And is he really out, or is that also just a bunch of smokescreen bullshit?
I think that's bullshit. But he doesn't. I don't think he needs Trump anymore. I think he got what he wanted. Doge, I think, was nothing more than a smash and grab robbery of all of our private data. He sent out his little minions into all the agencies. They installed little black boxes, uploaded all of our private data, everyone's, not just veterans, everyone's data, from Social Security office to the taxpayers to if you've paid taxes or if you have you're in there, you're in that group of data. Uploaded it all to the cloud, stole it, and then, I'm done. That's all I need. Is giving it to Palantir.
Yep.
If you thought that Cambridge Analytica taking our data from Facebook was a scandal, this is to the nth degree. He got what he wanted. He's got all our data. He doesn't care anymore. He doesn't need. He was never there to cut jobs or be efficient or anything. It was move fast, break things, and steal all of our data, and he did.
Mm-hmm. A la Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley like model, etc. But I do find it interesting that he's now thrown this huge chaos wrench into their ranks and forcing, this big happy family to infight in a way they haven't in quite a while, and not march lockstep with dear leader.
He doesn't need them anymore, right? And
right.
He's tired of people being mad about him and hating his cars. Liberals were his biggest customers.
That's a very good point.
And so now he's trying to go back to being a liberal darling and with all of our data. I mean, that's got to be it, right? I can't think of other that, or just he likes to think of us as playing pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got this megalomaniac personality that he controls governments and systems and economies. And so he could just be like, oh, today I'm going to watch this. And he'll just say a thing and it will split the whole Republican Party into two.
Yeah.
And that power, he just gets off on that because he can't get off on anything else because of this botched penis surgery. But
he might be able to get off on Stephen Miller's wife at least.
And he can't pee because of the ketamine. So what else he can't do, right?
The dude is flying so high we could strap a rocket to him and fly ourselves to Mars. We could put Katy Perry doesn't need a spaceship. She could just get on Elon's back.
Yeah, but people are shocked that he's been on drugs this whole time. I'm like, have you not seen him? Have you not seen his...
Right?
Like, remember at the one dinner he was building a sculpture out of corks like we used to do at Denny's in the middle of the night when we were...
Mar-a-Lago. And Carolyn Levitt was there, and he was showing her, like, look what I did. And she's like, that's great. And, like, to her credit, and she's fucking awful. Like, the most shameless of all of them. Like, she's awful. The worst press secretary we've ever had. But she's like, okay, you're weird. Like, yeah, no, he's out of his fucking mind, and he's high off his rocker. And megalomaniacs of a feather. He and Trump both get off on having this power. I mean, look at this market manipulation and, like, the tariffs on with taco shit. And these... How our country handed this much fucking power to these fucking idiots, insane, evil, megalomaniacal fucking idiots, is one of the greatest mysteries of all time. I know it's basic. I know it's probably pretty simple. I know that it's the racism stupid, but also it's like, really?
Propaganda.
Yes. Yes.
When you look back historically and try to figure out how Hitler got himself legally installed as chancellor, it was the propaganda. Mm-hmm. Nothing could beat it. Nothing could overcome it. And we're pretty noob. We're America's noobs when it comes to propaganda. I remember in 2016, Ukraine was like, what are you, new? Do you not see the Manafort, Putin, Cambridge Analytica thing? They were like looking at us like, how do you not see what's going on? And we're still that way, and nobody wants to admit that they've been fooled.
Right. Well, that's very true, and it's the Russia hoax. But also which brings me to this last bit of the conversation, because the media piece you mentioned earlier about the legacy media, and I'm so infuriated, not just by Jake Tapper's bullshit. I don't know if you saw that KJP is got a book coming out now in October, where she's going to trash Biden at the same time. She's left the Democratic Party. It was announced today, and she's going to write about what she was dealing with on the inside, which is like, fuck, no, stop, just fucking stop. We have like an authoritarian madman running amok in our government. But
people who think like they have this great new idea of trying to create a third party make me laugh.
Yeah, well, that part too. But let's talk about the abject failure of legacy media and all of this, and the original sin, and how this so much of their, I don't even know. It's not incompetence. It's willful fucking, not even ignorance, selfishness, how it's led to where we are now. And now they're still playing this. What Trump is Trump. Trump posted a conspiracy theory about Joe Biden being assassinated in 2020 and being replaced by a robot. on Abby Phillips' show, she's like, well, there's conspiracy theorists in the Democratic Party too. Remember fake Melania? No, stop. No, these are not the same things. Like, what are you doing?
And the thing that really upsets me is this oligarchy class of people like Jake Tapper and saying, oh, well, these Biden aides knew all of this stuff. And that's clearly Biden's fault. Instead of, it's the aides' fault for not saying anything and for not speaking up. If I haven't read, obviously, Jean-Pierre's book's not out yet.
No.
But if she knew all this when it was happening and didn't say anything, who's to blame for us not knowing?
Right.
Why are you sitting on things for 2 years and then writing a book? I'm sorry, if I'm in the White House and there's a huge scandal and Biden's aides are lying to people about something, whatever it is, to stay in the race or to make money somehow. There's some sort of, grift going on. If Biden stays in the race, these people will make money or something. Like, if there's some sort of scandal like that and I'm privy to it and I don't say anything and I hold on to that information until we lose the election and everybody's mad and looking for something to blame, and then I write a book and make a ton of money, whose fault is it?
Yeah. We saw the same thing with Bolton and with Bill Barr, during the first season of this reality shit show. And Bolton had opportunities to blow the whistle on what he was talking about once his book came out. So did Bill Barr.
Jean-Pierre, if this is so horrible, why didn't you quit and say, I am stepping down and I need everyone to know what's going on in this White House? This is scandalous. And if you had done that in 2022 and gotten Biden out in 2022 instead of taking him out 100 days before the election, we would have had a open primary.
Yeah.
And so why did you sit on that information? Either it wasn't important or you wanted to make money.
Right.
I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe I'll read, the book when I have Audible credits. I'll read the book, but I just don't understand if you have that incredibly important information, like Biden's aides and the press secretary. If you have that incredibly important information in 2022 and you didn't say anything.
Yeah. It's a credibility problem. It's a huge credibility. Why would I trust you? Why would I trust anything you say? So many of the people who, after January 6th in Trump's little inner orbit, who came out and said all these things about him being so fucking unhinged all the time, I have a hard time understanding how you were able to be quiet about it at all. I know it's
This is going to help us in 2028. What do we have to sort out? That Biden was old? Is he running again?
Yeah. Newsflash. He's old.
We're not going to name the aides that tricked us all into thinking Biden was a young man?
Right.
What would you like us to do?
Yeah. Right.
Fine. Name those bad guys. Tell us who they are so that we make sure that they don't work anywhere near the DNC or DCCC again.
Right.
You're still holding back information.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to tell us after we lose again? So you can write another book? Like what?
What's the lesson?
What is the lesson?
Right. Meanwhile,
and here we go. We've got the corporate media, which is part of the oligarchy, having Democrats fight with other Democrats about shit that happened 2 years ago. They're creating a culture war so they don't have to fight a class war.
Yep.
If you are wondering why you're upset about something, if the thing that is making you upset is coming out of the oligarchy, then that is the person shaking the jar of ants, not the ants. And you really should stop and think before you start fighting with your fellow Democrats about Biden, about who is trying to make you mad about it. Is it somebody in the working class? Is it somebody in a union? Is it a pregnant mom? Or is it part of the corporate media? Is it part of the oligarchy?
Yep.
Just think about when you find yourself getting upset, whether you're defending Biden or going after him, who's making you fight with the people that you need to be on the same team with?
And to every Democratic elected official who fields that question and doesn't, the question about Biden's mental acuity, the question about shoulda, coulda, woulda, and fields that question with anything other than, I am focused on what is in front of me now. I want to look forward, and I want to look at the present and forward. I don't have any use right now for this conversation about the past. That makes me crazy. That they go on.
You're putting your head in the sand.
Yeah.
Like, no, if you want to tell me who it was that tricked us, give me the names of people that I need to never vote for again and avoid, and to try to push out of the DNC or whatever, do that. But to just be like, it's real bad, you just have to trust me. It's real bad. There's guys up in here that are lying to you. I'm not going to tell you who.
Yeah.
I just want you to be real mad about the past.
Yeah.
And not give you any tools to fix it. But I want you to fix it.
Right.
And if you don't fix it, you're the problem.
Right.
Then you don't give a shit about us or our democracy. You care about your pocketbook, and you care about your being able to sell books and getting your name out there. And if that's what you care about, then I don't trust what you're trying to sell me.
Amen to that. And a lot of people are revealing themselves. And sometimes it's been a lot of like, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. That has been like the kind of like resonant message playing on a hamster wheel inside my head, especially lately. Yeah. But with that, I want to pivot for the last 2 minutes because the show's called Sane-ish. And one of the reasons it's called Sane-ish, as you know, right, is that right now it's pretty fucking impossible to be like, yeah, I'm totally good. I'm good. I feel 100%. I'm so sane. I'm like, I've never been saner in my life. It's like, let's get as close to approximating like sane infused, sane adjacent, sprinkled with sanity, like whatever. And the news cycle and all this constant bullshit does not do that for any of us. But there are things in life that like you can carve out that do. And what I would be curious to know from you, my friend, is what are those things for you? You're a runner, right? You a runner?
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that keep you in the neighborhood of sane?
Well, here's the weird part with me. My PTSD makes me want to know everything about scary stuff so that I can, because to me, knowledge is the enemy of anxiety. So you talked about Steve Bannon flooding the zone with shit. It actually alleviates my anxiety to swim in that shit 10 hours a day. Know everything that I can know about what's going on. It's like with PTSD, if you shoot off fireworks on a random Tuesday at 7:45 p.m., it scares the shit out of me. But the July 4th fireworks do not scare me because I'm expecting them. Mm-hmm. So I swim through the flood of shit. Mm-hmm. And then I tell other people about it. And I do it with swearing, heavy amounts of swearing.
Yes,
and that actually keeps me sane. It's a weird talent to have, and it's an odd thing to keep someone sane. It's part of my PTSD. But it works for me, and it works for the people who get their news from me. So, believe it or not, that's what. And I've reached my final boss cat lady form. I have 5 cats now.
Damn, that is a cat lady. I mean,
probably just takes a big chunk out of my credibility. But
no, 5 cats. I mean.
But they bring me joy, and and definitely I have to tell you, just get out and walk for a half an hour a day outside if you are able, to do that. And if you are not able to do that, just sit and meditate without anything in front of you for a few minutes, and just breathe and focus on yourself and have a little mindfulness about what's going on in your body and what you notice. Those things really, really do make a difference. I know it sounds cliche, but things are cliche for a reason.
Yeah. And I'll just say as I wrap up, because you mentioned it and you're like, it sounds crazy. What keeps you sane? And it doesn't really sound that crazy to me, because on some level, I think the part of me is the same as you. I think I feel very uncomfortable when I don't know what's going on and I can't talk about it, can't convey it to people. And it makes me anxious. And whenever I feel disconnected, partly because I want to know, because it makes me feel comforted, like to anticipate too. But to your point, what you do in as a byproduct of what makes you feel sane is you make other people feel sane in receiving the information via you. And I know that that's like not something that
you're
right,
not alone. Like that is
right,
such a huge thing is to
right.
is to know that you're not alone. That
Yeah.
stops gaslighters from being able to isolate you.
Amen. That is the whole fucking thing. As soon that is the whole that is their intention, and with propaganda they're very, very good at it. They're getting better at it. It's having more of an impact. And when we remind people that we see them, like we see you, it's this then they're back. Then, oh my God, I'm not alone. I am not alone. There are other people out there. I'm not losing my shit. I don't have to disengage and hide. I don't have to run away. I don't have to give up. There are other people like me, and that is 1000% what you do. And it cannot be, overstated how fucking important that is right now and has been. And that's why, in among many other myriad of reasons, you are so successful at what you do, because you give voice and agency to people who may be thinking that they're isolated and floating out there by themselves, and they're not.
Well, I had a very literal experience with just this when in 2012, when The Invisible War came out, a movie about military sexual trauma that I was in. I had never told anybody besides my therapist about my rape. And they interviewed me for the film. And I had not seen the film. I didn't know if they were even going to use me in the film. I didn't know how they were going to use my story in the film. But when I went to see the film at the premiere in LA, I was in a montage of clips of people, women and men, who went through the exact same thing I did when I went to try to report my rape. The military police asked me, "What were you wearing? Were you drinking? Were you flirting with this guy?" And then they came in and threatened me about what would happen if I filed a false report. They threatened to charge me with adultery because my rapist was married. They said I would get kicked out of the military. I would lose my benefits. I would end up on a ship, mopping the floor, swabbing the deck for the rest of my Navy career. And so I didn't report. And after trying to, tell this story of what happened to me and the VA denying my claim, I started to think I was crazy. The Navy was like, "You're crazy. This didn't happen." The VA was like, "You're crazy. This didn't happen." And when I saw it up on the big screen, all these people saying the exact same thing that they were told when they tried to report, that they were going to be charged with adultery. They were asked what they were wearing. They were asked if they were drinking. And it just washed over me like, I'm not fucking crazy. This actually happened. They couldn't gaslight me anymore. And so to be able to go through all this news and feel good about it, and not the news, but feel good about going through it and give it to everybody with swearing so that everybody can, because I learned by teaching.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best way I learn is by telling somebody about what I'm trying to figure out. It's that at the very root of it is I want people to feel like they're not alone, because it's a very powerful feeling. I think those are the three most powerful words, in more than "I love you," is "you're not alone."
I want to cry because I could not agree with you more on that. And I think that is the antidote to so much of the awfulness, because that's what we're up against on the other side in a very malevolent way, is that is some of the toothpaste that they squeezed out of that tube, because they made the most awful parts of people feel seen and validated and legitimized. And once they did that, it was sort of like all bets are off to the races. And there's two sides to that. There's the dark side, right? It feels like Star Wars, but
that's why there was so much joy in the Kamala Harris campaign.
Yeah,
that's because we weren't alone anymore. We could express our joy and and feel that together, and then that's why it was such a powerful campaign.
Yeah. Well,
like, it sucks that we lost. I miss those days.
Yeah.
Those 100 days before the election were some of the best days.
So much of me wants to. There's pieces of it that if you can't extract all of it, which clearly you can't, I still want to pull out some of it, the joy for sure. But I also want to pull out some of and I've talked about this in the past. I want to go back to weird. They're weird. I want to call them fucking weird again. I want. Taco fucking works, people. Go on the offense. I said I posted one time. I don't think anyone, literally anyone, not even the most MAGA person likes JD Vance. And they lost their fucking minds. I had freaking, Mike Lee. Oh, well, actually, I happen to have met JD Vance once, and he seemed like oh, you're triggered, you fucks. Yeah, okay, let's go back to that. Like, I want to come back. I want the joy back. We'll get there. We need a lot more of that. But I want to go back on the fucking offense, too. I just do.
Yeah, and I don't mind some of the things that may or may not be true, but still love repeating them, like J.D. Vance is a couch fucker and he killed the Pope. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just funny shit to me.
I started a Twitter account called JD Vance's Couch. Just like, oh no, he's home. Oh, it's been a rough night. Oh, okay. It's 2 gloves tonight. Yeah. Look, it's fucking funny and they don't like it and they're mean and cruel and evil and all bets are off. I don't think we have to stay in the muck, but we got to get down there once in a while and just fucking punch them in the throat.
Yeah, I agree, my friend.
Well, thank you so very much. This was cathartic and amazing and beautiful and connected and all of the things and revelatory and educational and all the things you bring to the table with swearing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I hope you know that. And I know a lot of people out there really depend on what you're doing. And so I'm grateful for that too.
Thanks, Joe. You too. And I'm really excited about your show.
Thanks.
That's the whole point, Sane-ish.
Yeah. And I love that the seeing other people thing and I see you. Like that is magic. That's the lightning in a bottle. And I see you, Allison Gill. So it was good to see you. And
you're not alone, Joanne Carducci. You're not alone.
Thank you for joining me. That concludes this episode of the Sane-ish podcast. Thank you, Allison.
Thanks. See you soon.
I'll see you soon. Honestly, it's conversations like that one with Allison that help keep me grounded. And speaking of sanity, I want to take a minute to share a few things that are actually keeping me sane-ish this week. This is something that I never do on my social accounts, but I thought that this community we're building here, well, we might all need a little more of that good stuff right now. So one of those things for me is, as a Jersey girl, my tomato plants. I have raised bed tomato plants on my deck, and I take such diligent care of these tomato plants that you would honestly think that I birthed them myself. I planted them from wee little, and I gave them these huge houses of caging and all the wires and everything else so that every little new stem and fruit and offshoot is supported so that they're not all falling on top of each other. And I will just lose myself in making sure that these plants stand tall and strong and are supported. And yes, it sounds like a metaphor for all things, but I completely lose myself in this. And it's the only time really in my day that I'm not thinking about the news or the crazy or the chaos or, the dystopia of it all. I just immerse myself in my tomato plants. And I imagine when my first perfect tomato comes in that I will probably shed a tear because I'm that kind of a weirdo, but I will also eat it, which sounds even stranger. But with that said, we all need something, right? A few things would be great. My kids' sports also do that for me, but we could talk about that another day. And I'll be talking a lot about sports in general. And I don't know if you noticed, but I like makeup. But I digress. Let's focus on the tomatoes. They make me happy. They keep me sane adjacent, sane infused, sprinkled with sanity, whatever you want to say. I think we all have something, and hopefully we do. And for me, today, the one I wanted to highlight was my tomato plant. So if there's something that keeps you sane, I want to hear about it. Spread the sanity and tell me about your sane saver in the comments. Thanks again to Allison Gill for joining me today, and thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a second to rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening. It really helps other folks to find the show. And don't forget to follow me on YouTube and Substack for more content, behind-the-scenes updates, and ways to stay connected with our growing sane-ish community. Until next time, stay strong, stay sane-ish, and take care of each other.